One of the things that I found over the years that's unique about music awareness for your very young children are the two more academic parts of the class, the theory and the instruments. Most music classes don't include those two pieces in the way that we do it. We actually teach children how to read music, what the notes are called, how to use them on an instrument, and then we give children an opportunity to try all the different instruments. And so what I want to share with you is really, I think, it's the most academic and it's the most unique part of early music awareness if you set aside the uniqueness of finding out who children are and how to teach them in a way that's fun. Because I'm not sure every music program does that. And maybe over time I'll explain to you or talk to you about some other music programs that are out there so you can kind of know how it's different. But one of the ones that you will have heard about is a program called Music Together. Music Together, actually, because one of our master teachers also teaches Music Together. Just kidding. And that's Becky. And Music Together is geared toward a very young child. It's a lot of mommy and me, or the very young child up through 2.5 to 3. Wow. They have children up through 4 years old, but by then we find that a lot of students are wanting to do something a little bit more than just the singing and movement that are included in those kinds of explorational classes. So our philosophy is that we want the beginning of music to be really a fun, happy, contagious experience. And so if that happens somewhere else, great. Let's keep it happy and keep it going. But we have found that many that have come from that are excited to have a little bit more academic component. So I'm going to talk about those two academic components now. And the music theory, just so you know, should we just pass these so they can look at
Yeah, that's totally fine.
I think that would be helpful. We just realized that we only have 5 of these books, so we might have to do some sharing.
Share with your neighbor.
There you go. And you guys can share over there, and then I can use it to point to stuff. So, if you notice in the front of the book, and these books are compilations of the theory handouts. You know, years ago, I used to just draw them on a piece of paper and make copies. And then I had a gal who worked for us who loved using, she just got her first Mac, and she loved using a little draw program, and so she started making little handouts, and then over the years we've made them more and more, systematized. And so if you look at the very beginning, you'll see that the music theory is divided up into 4 sections. After the foreword, you'll see the table of contents. So you'll see note values first, and then rests, and then what comes after that? Excuse me? Staff, and after staff? I can't hear you. Music symbols. Thank you. Okay, so generally what happens in the beginning of an early music awareness class, why would we use, just from a developmental perspective, can you see any logical reason why we would go in this order? So we really do note values first, rest second, and staff third, and then there's a reason we do musical symbols for it. Yeah?
I never got one of these.
That's because we're having to share. You probably didn't notice that I asked you to share when I was talking, because I know it's hard to hang in there with every little thing we do. So let's just kind of look on with Betty there. So, no ideas? Why we would start with note values? Any ideas? Okay, so let me share with you that let's look at
Wait, note values.
Note values are like quarter notes, whole notes. Notes. How long do notes last? Note values.
It's because it's the most important out of those.
Oh, okay. And you want to use that the other way. Okay.
So they can know what notes are?
Music stuff
they're
way
visual
too complex
learners.
for them to learn.
That's exactly it. The staff, so what we want to be is developmentally sensitive. So we start with note values because it doesn't, just look at the difference. Here is a note. This is a face and a stem and a dirty face.
It's the simplest out of all.
It's the simplest to process. Okay, all I have to know is that it has a stem and a dirty face and a face, and that it gets 1 count, and it's called a quarter note. But if I'm trying to work on a staff, then I have to know, is it a line note or a space note? Is it a black note or a white note? Is it a flag note or a dotted note? Is it on line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Is it on space 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Is it in the treble clef or is it in the bass clef? And think about all that information that you have to process. So it's going to be much easier because children, as they're developing, are not going to have the visual skill to process all that information. That's why child prodigies who start playing and doing things when they're 3 or 4, they're either being able to play by rote, or they have highly advanced visual skill that's allowed them to process and actually read the music, but usually they're not reading music, they're just playing. And I've had children in my office during assessments that could read things that, why could you read, you're only 3, but they, so they have special ways of, their brain has developed in a certain way that accommodates unusual ability, but traditionally children aren't going to be able to deal with all of this until they're 5 or 6, really, to be able to discern all those differences. So starting with note values is the simplest thing, so that's why we do it. Because if it's simple, it's easy to learn, it's more fun, right? How many of you like doing stuff that's really hard? Nobody likes doing stuff that's really hard. In fact, you might find it hard to crawl around. When I was talking to Santiago, how are you with crawling around on the floor and being silly with a bunch of kids? He said, well, does Mr. Ed do that? And I go, he sure does. Well, then I can do that too. But if that weren't fun for him, then it's not going to, he's not going to be energized by it. If he's not energized by it, that will show in the way that he teaches. So children, if somebody starts me on something that's too hard for me, my little self that says I have to do everything right is going to get scared and close down or run away or say I don't like it or you're stupid or I don't want to do it. You know, I'm going to say all kinds of things. So I have to do everything I can as an educator to make sure that I make it as simple as possible, but not boring, right? If it's too boring, then I'm lost because, you know, I'm just like I'm out there, I'm way ahead of what you're doing. So everything we do is about engaging the child where they're at, right? That's grammatically not very appropriate, but it's a colloquial term that says let's get them where they can feel it and do it right, right? So we start with note values first, and so let's just pretend like we're 3 for a minute. And I think you might have heard me do this on a video, but I might sit down and we might be in a class and just introducing, this might be the first class, and I'm not going to use this one for this board, but I'm going to tell you a story. Everybody likes a story. How many of you ever listened to a lecture or something and the guy's lecturing or he's teaching something or a Bible teacher or something like that, and then he says, why don't you just put your pencils down and I'm going to tell you a story. You just immediately, what happens?
Relax.
You relax, your heart opens and you're able to receive what you have to say. So it's great if you incorporate stories all the time, and I'm hoping as we move along I'll share some stories of kids and things that have happened, you know, and I've been doing this. Think about how old I am. Early music awareness. So we started early music awareness in, you know, before music plays began. So in like maybe 1982, 1983. So I have lots of stories. So you're all 4 years old right now, and I'm going to tell you a story. Okay, so go ahead, and unless you think you really need to take some notes, which you might, but you don't have to, because some of this is on video. What I'm going to use a whiteboard when I'm presenting the theory. And usually they're not this big. They're sometimes a little bit smaller. You just have it on your lap, and then later the children will have a chance to use it. So here's the, I'm going to maybe draw a face. And who knows what this is? Who can tell me? You're 4. Happy face. Sometimes they just say happy because they're used to expressions and stuff. And I might say, is it a happy elbow or a happy knee? What is this? Oh yeah, what is it?
Happy face.
A happy face. Very good. Where's your face? Do you have a face? Oh, show me your face. Very good. Okay, so did you know? And sometimes I lean right into their faces. Did you know that music notes have faces? Make sure you've eaten your breath mints that day. And they say no. And I go, well, they do. Music notes have faces, and they also have stems. What else has a stem that you can think of?
A flower.
A flower. Good idea. Who can show me where the stem is on this flower? Can you show me where the stem is, Patty? Very good. Oops. Sorry, you got some of that purple ink on your finger. And you know what? It's going to just rub right off. It's actually liquid plastic, by the way. So don't want to be eating it. So the stem on the flower, is that in the middle or on the side? What do you think? What do you think, Lilia? Is it in the middle or on the side? Oh. The stem inside the flower. Is the stem in the middle or is it on the side?
On the side.
It's on the side.
Yes.
And sometimes in flowers the stem is on the side. But in this flower, the stem is in the middle, but my music note, the stem is on the side. So I just took what she said that was incorrect and I turned it into a correct response, okay? So she noticed that the stems on music notes are on the side, very good. And sometimes, so music notes have faces and they have stems, and sometimes they have dirty faces. How many of you have ever had a dirty face before? Oh, good, and sometimes kids you go, no, I've never had a dirty face. So this dirty face note has a fancy name. It's called a quarter note. Can you say that big word?
Quarter note.
Very good. Now hold up one finger. Dip it in some pretend purple paint. Make a face in the air. And a stem. Now make a silly noise while we make a dirty face. Trevor, can you make a silly noise for us while we make a dirty face? I didn't hear it. I want to hear it. Okay, how many counts does a quarter note get? You say 1. Let's say it again. 1. Now let's clap it. 1. Now this is nice because I have it in my lap. When it's on my neck, I can't really clap very well. So now I have 1 quarter note. Well, do you know what? I bet you're so clever you could figure out how to clap 2 quarter notes. Let's clap 1, 2. Try that. 1, 2. Very good. And how about 3 quarter notes? Who thinks they could clap 3 quarter notes for me? Sarah, can you do it? Very good. Let's all do it together. 1, 2, 3. Let's use our words when we clap. Who can use their words and clap 4 quarter notes for me? Joey, would you like to try?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Excellent. Let's all do it together. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. And I might ask who else would like to do that, because when children know how they know they can do it right, they want to share them. And that gives them some, oh, I did it too, and then Miss Janice thinks I'm so wonderful because I clapped it. So you give any child, especially if you know again that it's a child that maybe is a little bit insecure, but you see a little light in their eye, and who else would like to try that? And they kind of go like this, oh, then you're going to call on them and say, oh, we'd love for you to share that. So they do it. And you know what? Remember, for adults, review is boring, but for children, it makes them feel smart.
Repetition.
Say it again. For adults, review is
Boring.
but children, it makes them
Makes
feel
them
smart.
smart.
Very good. Okay, so I'm going to go through. Now, what I've done is, if you look in your notebook there, you'll see that the first handout is a quarter note. And I just want to kind of help you navigate through this little workbook. The first handout is a quarter note, and so that's the first thing you're going to teach in a class, assuming it's a brand new class. So the first handout's a quarter note, but if you look at the next page, you're going to see another quarter note. Now, why would we have 2 different handouts that have a quarter note on it, Sarah?
One is just for like to take home for review, like just to show what it is, and the other one isn't like working like that.
That's a really good thought. But actually, we would only give one. Every week children come to class. They get 2 handouts: 1 instrument picture handout and 1 theory handout. So she's right. They're going to take 1 home. But we have some handouts that have really big notes on them, and they're for different aged children. Would these be for older children or younger children? Yeah. So because their visual skills more limited, so almost the whole thing that's on the whole page is a quarter note. Okay. Whereas with other children, and this would be children who are 1 and 2 and maybe 3. We don't even do a lot of notes in the family classes that involve children, but we are going to have Valerie come and share a little bit about those classes where the parents and the children are together in a 30-minute class where they're exploring, and that might be something you love to do. So as soon as children are ambulatory, they can walk around, which is about 12 months, then we allow them in classes. And I saw a child in the class the other day who wasn't even walking yet. The parent brought them and just wanted them getting exposed to music and having fun for 30 minutes and giving the parents tools. So we're going to use those in the very young classes, okay? But what I did was, the idea is you're going to give them 1 handout each week. But what I did was I taught about a quarter note, and then I taught about 4 quarter notes, because next week they're going to get this handout. So I want to always preview next week's theory and what I do in the theory time together in this class. So now that I've taught about these 4 quarter notes, and if they were 4 and 5-year-olds, I would also teach them about bar lines. And did you know that music notes live in a house, and then this fancy name for a music house is a measure? Say measure. Say it with me. Measure. Make your hand go up like you're making a house. Measure. Very good. Get them involved tactily any way that you can. And so I might have talked to them about that, but they won't get that handout this week. That's maybe coming up, okay? So now, say we've all learned about, what's this called again, this dirty face note? Who remembers the fancy name for a dirty face note? And I say it's a fancy name because if they can't remember it, I want them to not feel bad because it's kind of a fancy name, or it's, who knows what this really hard note is to name, or who knows what this really hard letter is. You do things like that so they feel totally comfortable if they don't know the answer, right? How many of you like to feel stupid when you don't know the answer?
What?
Nobody wants to. Okay, so then I would say, okay, who would like to come up and draw a coordinate on the board for the class? And so I would ask who would like to do that. So let's see, who thinks they know how to draw a coordinate and they'd like to come up and draw one? Okay, Joey, would you like to come draw a coordinate for me? And everybody watch carefully, because in a minute we're gonna get our instruments and we're gonna try this coordinate, okay? First, you're gonna make a face. There's the face, great job. And then the stem, and I talk him through it. And then make a dirty face. Beautiful. Okay, now who thinks they can clap Joey? Let's all clap Joey's coordinate. Ready? One. Do it again. One. Now let's give Joy a big clap for drawing a beautiful coordinate for us. Okay, who else would like to come and draw a coordinate on the board? And we really love for all the kids to come. They all take a turn to come draw their note. And each time we do it, we have a response to it. Okay, Sarah, would you like to come and draw a coordinate on the board for us? It's the face and the dirty face, and there comes the stem. Very beautiful. Thank you so much. Now let's clap Sarah's coordinate. How many counts does it get? Everybody hold up one finger and say one. Let's clap it. One, very good. Okay, and then I would go through and have each child come and draw. And at the end, let's say we have 6 coordinates. Do you think we can clap all the coordinates that we have on the board? Let's try it. In fact, they might have at this point some rhythm instruments under their chair as a tool that they don't have on their lap all the time. So let's get out your instruments from under the chair. You might have maracas or triangles or whatever. Get your instruments out. I'm not going to give them to you today. Sorry. And then let's use our instruments to do these. How many coordinates are? Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I would erase these bar lines so they won't get confused next week to think that I have to start over with 1 or anything like that. So get your instruments and let's play all these 6 coordinates. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Excellent. And let's just count us. Let's just give yourselves a clap with your instrument. Yay! Okay, put your instruments back under your chair. So so I spent about 3 to 5 minutes just introducing a theory element. The next week, I'm going to review. Who remembers what the dirty face coordinate? Who remembers what the dirty face note is called? This part is called the what? The face. This part is called the stem. And then what's in between? It's the dirty face note. What's the fancy name for that? Quarter note. Very good. How many counts does it get? Anybody remember how many counts it gets? One count. Let's hold up one finger and say it. One. Let's clap it. 1. Okay. Now remember when we had 4 coordinates, so then I move right on into 4 coordinates and talk about bar lines. And so what you're going to do is look ahead and say, what's the next handout? I'm going to make sure I cover this one. I have some activity they can draw on the board.